It's never easy to wrap up a good show. And just recently, I finally watched the final season of The Handmaid's Tale, which I have to say, it wasn't what I thought the show would be. It didn't end how I thought it would end. Now, I never read the books, but my expectation for the end was that June would reunite with her daughter, Gilead would be completely defeated, and either Nick or Serena would completely defect to the other side. Instead, we got what I thought was a pretty good final season, especially considering the disaster that season 5 was. Now, the final season certainly serves as a bridge to the sequel show coming soon, The Testaments, but should the show have ended differently? I don't think so. Much of the themes in The Handmaid's Tale that made it great are really present in the final season and in the final episode. We still see this theme of fighting on and never giving up as June's going to continue to look for Hannah. There's also this theme around lost opportunity and anger that continues to resonate. Now, one of the big themes in this show has always been religion. We see characters like Serena and Aunt Lydia defend Gilead as they believe what they are doing is essentially God's will. Now, both characters are torn between Gilead and the rebels and even betray Gilead. But in the end, though, they both manage to survive, and Aunt Lydia stays in Gilead. Serena goes to a refugee camp. I thought the show did a great job showing really the humanity of these characters and the dilemma they faced as they knew many of Gilead's actions were wrong, but they still believed in Gilead ultimately. Now, season 5 of this show was really a character study on June and to a lesser extent Serena. And I've said before, I thought this was a mistake, big mistake in a prior episode. The strength of the show was always around Gilead, the ruthless society it was, and how these women are just fighting to survive. That's what made seasons 1 through 3 great. In the final season, though, we see June and Serena's complicated relationship come to an end. It's an interesting dynamic between the two because they believe in many of the same things. In fact, my interpretation is that if they weren't torn over their feelings of Gilead, they would probably even be friends if Gilead never existed. In the end, though, June finally forgives Serena. Serena is thrilled around this. Was the series finale what we hoped for or what we wanted? It wasn't awesome by any means. I think it did enough. I also think that delays in getting the seasons out, or the final season out, really hurt this. The fact is, many have moved on, I think, from the show. A lot of people I've talked to, they were really into it, and they kind of, if these shows aren't putting things out consistently, people just lose interest. It's not like other shows, like Cobra Kai had seasons out really every year at a minimum, and people stayed engaged with the show and with the characters. I actually think this is going to hurt Stranger Things too, as they've waited, God, how many, 3 or 4 years at least? Anyhow, Netflix might come to regret that decision around Stranger Things. I mean, a lot of those kids have got to be, they're all adults now. They were kids when they were starting out. They're definitely younger 20s at this point. Now, what about The Testaments, the follow-up show? I think it's too early, obviously, to tell at this point. We have to see what happens, but just looking at the cast, the first few characters don't really thrill me, except possibly Aunt Lydia. Her character is back. It'll be interesting kind of to see how she has changed. Is she still going to be this on the fence type woman, or is she going to be someone who comes out in the show and, early on says, when I was younger, I made these mistakes. I did this, I did that. I've asked God's forgiveness. And is she just going to be the total, Nazi, for lack of a better term, like she was in the first season or two? I think that's the route they really should go with Aunt Lydia. Anyhow, did you like the final season? Let me know your thoughts. Appreciate it.